The night was unusually quiet in the small town of Ravenswood. No crickets, no wind rustling through the trees, just an eerie stillness that hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Mara, a young scientist working at the local observatory, had been staring at the stars for hours, searching for answers to questions she didn't even know she had. She had always been fascinated by the sky, by the possibility that we weren't the only ones looking up. Then, it happened. A flicker of light in the sky caught her eye. At first, she thought it was just a shooting star, but the light moved in a way no meteor ever could. It zigzagged, turning sharply as though it was alive. Heart racing, Mara grabbed her camera and rushed to the roof of the observatory. Through the lens, she could see it more clearly. This wasn't a natural occurrence. Over the next few days, strange phenomena began happening in Ravenswood. Animals were acting strangely, and strange sounds echoed in the woods at night. Locals dismissed it as superstition, but Mara knew something was wrong. She was convinced that the lights in the sky weren't just a coincidence. On the night of the next sighting, she convinced a few others to join her, including Leo, a skeptical journalist from the local paper, and Sarah, her childhood friend who had always shared her sense of adventure. Together, they went deep into the forest, tracking the lights. As they reached a clearing, the lights appeared again, this time much closer. They could hear a faint hum, and the air felt charged, like static electricity. Mara felt a pull, a strange sense of connection to the lights, like they were calling her. Leo wanted to run, but Sarah was just as curious as Mara. They stood their ground. The lights shifted and began to form a shape, something not quite human, but not quite alien either. It was glowing, its outline shimmering like liquid metal. It hovered silently above the ground. The group could feel the heat radiating from it, but the temperature in the forest had dropped sharply. Then, the figure spoke, though its lips didn't move. The voice was inside their heads, clear, strong, and yet impossibly distant. "Do not be afraid. We are here for peace." Mara, feeling a mix of wonder and fear, stepped forward. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The figure's light dimmed, and it seemed to change shape, becoming less rigid and more fluid. "We are travelers. We have come from the stars, searching for those who can understand us." It paused, then added, "We have much to offer, but we need your help." The group stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. But Mara, always the scientist, felt a deep sense of responsibility. "Help with what?" she asked. The figure's form wavered. "There is a danger we face, a force that threatens both our worlds. We must work together to stop it." The following days were filled with confusion, excitement, and fear. Mara, Leo, and Sarah had trouble convincing others of what they had seen. Only a few locals believed them, but the rest dismissed it as a collective hallucination or a hoax. The strange occurrences in the town continued, though, growing more intense. People reported seeing odd shadows moving in the corners of their eyes, and strange symbols appeared carved into trees around the town. Mara spent her days researching the figure's words. She pored over ancient texts and scientific journals, trying to find any clue that could explain the alien presence. The symbols in the trees seemed to resemble something from a lost civilization, a group of people who had vanished long ago, leaving behind cryptic warnings. Leo, still skeptical but intrigued, began investigating his own way. He found evidence of similar strange occurrences in other towns, dating back centuries. Each time, it seemed that the events had escalated until some force, had wiped out everything in its path. The more he dug, the more he realized that the creatures, whatever they were, might not be the peaceful beings they claimed to be. One night, Mara and Leo were discussing the situation when the lights appeared again. This time, they were not alone. The figure hovered above the forest, surrounded by smaller, darker shapes. These beings were different, they were cloaked in shadows, their forms hard to discern. The figure that had spoken to them before appeared more agitated. "We've come to warn you," the figure spoke in their minds. "There is a darkness that follows us, a force we cannot escape. It feeds on fear and consumes everything in its path." Mara felt a chill run down her spine. "What is it?" "It is called the Devourer. It hunts us, and it will not stop until it has taken everything," the figure explained. "We have to stop it before it reaches your world." Our technology can help, but we need time and we need trust. The three humans didn't know what to say. The air around them grew thicker with tension, the sense of impending doom palpable. Leo wanted to argue, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "They're not lying," she whispered. "We have to help." But what could they do? They weren't prepared for this, none of them were. Days passed, and the signs became more pronounced. People began to disappear, and the town grew quieter by the day. The Devourer's presence was evident, but it was intangible, a shadow that seemed to hang over everything. The three humans and the alien figure began working together, creating a plan to combat the Devourer, but with every step, they encountered more obstacles. Trust was hard to come by, and doubt began to creep in. Mara became convinced that the only way to defeat the Devourer was to use the alien technology, but there was no guarantee it would work. Leo questioned the aliens' motives. Sarah, always the optimist, tried to rally them, but the tension was growing. The battle with the Devourer began in the dead of night. The townspeople had been preparing, stockpiling supplies, and hiding in the underground shelters that had been built decades ago. Mara, Leo, and Sarah were ready to face whatever came their way. But even they weren't prepared for the terror that the Devourer brought with it. The first sign was the darkness, an all-consuming blackness that blotted out the stars and the moon. The ground trembled as if the earth itself was afraid. The air grew thick, heavy, as if the very atmosphere was being choked by the presence of the Devourer. Then, out of the blackness, a shape began to form. It was a mass of shifting shadows, pulsating and writhing as though it was alive. It came for them, for the humans who had dared to stand against it. Mara, Leo, and Sarah stood their ground, but they knew they were no match for the Devourer's power. The alien figure had explained the way to defeat it, a powerful energy blast that could sever the connection between the Devourer and the world it was trying to consume. But the device was unstable. If it didn't work, it could destroy everything. As the Devourer approached, they activated the device. The energy pulse shot out, a brilliant beam of light cutting through the darkness. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, the Devourer screamed a horrifying, unearthly sound that rattled the very bones of everyone who heard it. The beam of light hit its mark, and the Devourer began to dissipate, breaking apart into millions of tiny fragments. But just as they thought they had won, something unexpected happened. The alien figure, the one who had come to them for help, began to change. Its form flickered and warped until it was no longer the peaceful being they had come to know. It was the Devourer, its true form, and it had been using them all along. With the alien's final betrayal, Mara and her friends made one last desperate attempt. They activated the device again, this time at full power. The blast was so intense that it consumed everything in its path, the Devourer, the alien's deception, and the very ground they stood on. The explosion was deafening, and when the dust cleared, the sky above was calm once more. Ravenswood was silent again. The story explores themes of trust, deception, and the consequences of unchecked curiosity. The ethical considerations are complex. The humans, though driven by curiosity and a desire for knowledge, put themselves and their community in danger by blindly trusting an unknown entity. The story challenges the moral implications of seeking help from forces beyond human understanding, questioning whether it is wise to trust in the unknown, and what price must be paid when that trust is broken. Ultimately, it speaks to the responsibility of handling powerful knowledge and the importance of skepticism in the face of seemingly benevolent assistance.